Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a video today talking about my recent experiences with the Fujifilm X-E1 and just a general gear update. Up until like yesterday, I was convinced that I was going to sell all my Fujifilm X-Trans gear, and I'd even filmed the video to send it on its way, but I've decided that I'm going to keep hold of it. Part of the reason why I wanted to get rid of it is that I'm not that happy with the 35mm f1.4 lens that I have. This lens here. I know everyone raves about it in terms of it being a legendary lens, the way it renders scenes. And don't get me wrong, it does render really nicely, but I don't find that my version of this lens is particularly sharp. Like, I have to stop it down quite a bit before it sharpens up, and I think it's final death nail was when I did some comparisons with some vintage lenses that I've got. Certainly for the Pen F, I pitched it against the 38mm f1.8, and that actually produced, when stopped down admittedly, sharper images than my Fuji 35mm f1.4. So that's why I was thinking about, yeah, let's just get rid of it all. But I think it's such a compact camera, this, that I've decided to hang on to it. I was contemplating selling my Ricoh GR3. I'll just get out here. So this is my Ricoh GR3. I think I only bought it, or I say bought it, upgraded it about 6 months ago. And originally I bought the GR for a very specific purpose, in that I went to an event where you couldn't take a big heavy camera, but I wanted to capture photos that were better than what my phone could produce. So I bought a GR, and typically on the day of the event it rained, so I didn't actually end up using the GR a great deal, but I did manage to get some good snaps from under an umbrella, and since then I have really struggled to find scenarios that I would opt to take the GR camera out over other cameras that I have in my collection. So I was contemplating selling the GR3 recently, but then I changed my mind, because even though you still have to spend about £900 to pick up one of these at the moment on the used market in the UK, when I put it in a few of the obvious trade-in places, they would only give me about 500 for it, and it's in pretty good condition. So that's made me really reconsider selling the GR3. So the GR3 is going to stay for the time being. But don't get me wrong, it is an amazing camera, and if you haven't got other cameras and you want better quality than what your phone can deliver, then I highly recommend getting a Ricoh GR. Yeah, and it has done me well, but I just don't use it enough, really, because whenever I do take it out, I kind of wish that I'd bought a different camera. So anyway, my GR3 is staying for the time being. I suspect its value has diminished a little bit since Ricoh announced that they were developing a GR4. So maybe when that's out and it's hard to get hold of, the value of these might go up again, and then I might reconsider moving the GR3 on at a later time, because I still have got the original Ricoh GRD, which is the 8 megapixel, like smaller sensor camera. And the reason I keep hold of this one is because it does do really good black and white images, and it is a bit of a smaller and lighter carry compared to my other cameras. So anyway, because I was thinking about getting rid of the GR3, I thought it did leave a bit of a gap in my collection for something that was light, that did have an EVF, so it's easier to compose your shots, and could potentially be pocketable. And where the X-E1 wins over the GR3 is the fact that you can adapt lenses to it. So I find that the 28mm lens on the GR3 is a little bit restrictive at times, it's great to be able to stick on lots of different lenses on this particular camera. And I'm moving forward at the moment, I'm just going to use all the manual focus vintage lenses that I have on this camera, rather than buy a native lens. Although if I do sell the Ricoh in the future, I might look at getting a pancake 27mm lens for this camera, because I do feel that with a small lens it could be just as, well, not as pocketable as the GR3, but you could just get away with it in some attire. Just before I move on to look at some of the other gear that I want to talk about today, is that I've done over the last 5 years comparisons with this camera and other cameras that have passed through my collection. So the Canon 5D Mark I, my Olympus EM1, my GFX camera that I've just picked up, and initially I'm not overly keen on the images that come straight out of this camera. The film sims are a bit hit and miss, and I really don't like the greens and the blues that this camera produces. But I'll just put up some images now. I found when I was literally reviewing the images recently that just a few minor tweaks in Lightroom to the white balance really does bring the image closer to what I prefer. Yes, I'm never going to get away from the worms, but I feel there's a lighter carry, and certainly something that works well with my manual focus lenses. It's worth hanging on to the X-E1 for the time being. And I think as well, having the GFX recently has kind of rekindled my love of having cameras with external physical controls. So I'm definitely going to be getting rid of the Fujifilm 35mm f1.4. I've also decided, reluctantly in a way, to sell this lens as well, which is my Olympus 12-40 f2.8 Pro lens. And this has been an absolute fabulous lens. It's weather sealed, it's light, it's compact for the range it gives you, which is equivalent to 24-80 on a full frame camera. But in all honesty, since my experience with the Olympus OM1 and my view of the direction that OM Systems is taking Micro Four Thirds, I've fallen out of love with Micro Four Thirds a little bit. So at the moment, I don't feel that I need to hang on to this particular lens, certainly while it's got some residual value. Like, I think they're going to give me about £300 for this lens, which will be quite a nice injection of cash into the other lenses that I want to buy, and I'll talk about that in a little while. I'm still keeping hold of my Olympus EM1, partly because it's not really worth a great deal these days, and I've got some other 4/3 lenses for it. I've got a 50mm f2 macro, and I've got a 50-200 old 4/3 lens for it as well. And all of those lenses, they're not really worth, they're worth more to keep than they are to sell. So it has got its uses as a weather sealed system for like macro telephoto at the moment. I've also got flash that I can use with it, and yeah, it's my only camera at the moment that I can scan film with, so I certainly don't feel the need to get rid of all my Micro Four Thirds cameras, and I'll even be tempted with like a newer Olympus camera, like an EM1 Mark III, before they went over to OM Systems down the line, because it is a good backup system for events, as I've recently found, because it's a bit more robust in terms of weather sealing, I think, than the Canon R8 that I'm filming this on now. And just talking about video as well, like, I'm really happy with the Canon R8 for action photography and also for video. Like, I've been using an Osmo Pocket for years on my channel, but I think now I'm ready to sell all my Osmo Pocket gear and just use the Canon R8 for all my video and vlogging needs. It's great to be able to see myself, and I find audio quality and video quality is much better than the Osmo Pocket. I think the large sensor certainly does help with keeping noise at bay. I certainly noticed that with the Osmo Pocket. I also find with the Osmo Pocket, it takes quite a while for it to stabilize before you get usable footage, and I start to see kind of jitters and like pulsing in the focus, and like I'm filming this on a 25 euro cheapo lens on the Canon R8, and it does a much better job than my Osmo Pocket does. So yeah, the Canon R8 is going to do all my video moving forward, and yeah, I'm going to be selling the Osmo Pocket gear, which surprisingly, I've had this for years and it still does command quite a good price on the trade-in market. I've also got a Panasonic 20mm f1.7 lens, which stays pretty much permanently attached to my GX1 here for when I feel like some infrared photography. And the other 4/3 lenses that I have as well also work with this camera. So that's the only 4/3 and micro 4/3 lenses I'm going to have moving forward for the time being. Of course, I'm definitely going to be keeping the Canon 5D. Don't worry, I will do a video on that at some point, because I don't know why I struggled with it first time around. It's been an absolute revelation since owning the second copy of the camera. And the benefit is that the EF lenses that I get for the R8 will work on it, and the EF lenses also work reasonably well on the GFX system. So I did also consider recently selling the Canon 85mm f1.8, just because I find, like the Fujifilm 35mm f1.4, I feel like I need to stop this down a bit for it to achieve good sharpness. But on review of the images, I do think I like the look of this camera, and I think for the sake of like 120 quid that I get trading it in, I think it's worth it for the time being, keeping hold of it. So I think that's all the changes in terms of moving gear around in terms of my digital gear. I think from a film gear perspective, I might hang on to my film cameras for a bit longer. I've started printing, or some mini prints with the Canon Selfie, some of my old film prints, and they surprisingly they turn out really well. So that might give me some enthusiasm in the future to get back into film photography. But I think the last camera that I tried, the Yashica Minster up here, I'm going to sell that, because when I looked at the images, I think my other cameras, 35mm cameras, are better. Yes, it's nice having a built-in light meter in the camera and like a rangefinder, but it needs a bit of TLC in terms of alignment, and I just haven't got the wherewithal to do that at the moment. So I will be looking to sell that on, even if it's just to clear some space from my shelving. But all the other film cameras are going to stay for the moment, because I'm hoping I'll get a bit of a resurgence in enthusiasm for film photography at some point in the future. So with all this cash that these lenses are going to generate when I trade them in, what am I going to do with it? Well, as you've been hearing me talk about, I'm well into the GFX system at the moment, and I'm going to get probably the Fujifilm 35 to 70. I did think about the 45 to 100, and I think if I was a professional, I'd certainly get the 45 to 100, but I just think that the compact nature of the 35 to 70 means I'd probably take it out more, because it wouldn't add too much to the camera's hefty weight as it is. And also as well, I've got like a Canon EF 70 to 210 lens that actually works really well on the GFX system. I tend to favour the range that the 35 to 70 will cover. I'm not a massive fan of like going wider than that. I find 28mm sometimes too wide. So yeah, having a lens which will bottom out at 28 is fine by me. Plus as well with the GFX, like you can crop in to like full frame mode, so the 35 to 70 would be able to reach to about 100 as well, which is about probably about 80mm full frame. So that's fine for me, I think, for a general all-purpose lens, which I'll then complement with all the manual focus lenses that I have for the system. So that's certainly is my camera for anything that doesn't move too fast. Like I bought the Canon R8 recently, which is great in anything that does move fast, and I'll probably put some money towards a better, more versatile lens. I'm thinking about getting the 70 to 300 EFL lens, and yeah, and that's probably what I'll probably look at getting for the moment, and just see how I go with that combination. But certainly the GFX and the R8 are my main camera systems at the moment. So I don't envisage using the Fujifilm X-E1 a great deal at the moment, but it is there if I feel like I want to use it, and it's a hard camera to get rid of. Right, so I think that's all I wanted to say on this video. I think what I'll do now is I'll just put up I'll look at when I last did an update on the Fujifilm X-E1, and I'll put up a montage of images that I've taken with this camera since then. But as always, thanks for watching. Bye for now.